Veloce Podcast. So we're on episode 25, aren't we, Rich?
25, yeah. Hello.
So yeah, again. So what have we been up to this week?
Well, racing this week. So our driver, Sarah Thompson, has been racing on the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit, isn't she?
Yeah, so it's only Sarah's third ever race. So it was quite challenging for us all, really, wasn't it? And the fact that it was obviously her third race. Silverstone Grand Prix circuit is huge. She wasn't able to test on the Friday, unfortunately, because the way that it works, they'd opened up the testing to pretty much anybody. So loads of people booked on that weren't for the race meeting. So it meant a load of people couldn't get on that needed to get on to test, which was a bit unfortunate, wasn't it? But
it was a big old race meeting though, wasn't it?
It was. So it's basically GT Cup. There was Formula 3, which is now called, is it GT?
GB3 it's called now.
GB3, that's it. So basically the former Formula 3 championship.
Yeah. There's a lot of cars in that.
Yeah.
Full grid that was.
Yeah. So all sorts of stuff going on anyway.
8 million caterers.
Yeah. Yeah. Radical were there as well.
Yeah.
No, it was good fun, but the typical Silverstone, so we kept an eye on the weather. And then, of course, what happens is, it says it's going to be dry all weekend and great.
Stood in the collection area, weren't we? And it started to
started to
gently rain, didn't it? It's like,
so,
here we go.
Unfortunately for qualifying, that made it tricky because we were what Sarah runs isn't a cut. It's not a slick, is it? It's a cut slick. Effectively, I suppose closer to like a normal road tyre in some respects, but not as durable as that in these conditions. So they do run wets as well, but because we're in the collecting area, it's the case for everybody. But we were on basically old, worn tyres, weren't we, that were dry tyres, and it was her first ever time in those conditions. And most racing drivers want it wet or dry. The in between is incredibly difficult unless you've got a lot of experience. I mean, we were both talking,
like it like that,
yeah, and I used to do really well in the wet or in between conditions, but I think we're basing it on experience, aren't we? I mean, for me, I'd done a lot of karting and other things, by the time I'd gone to karts, whereas Sarah, it's her first ever time, she's not karted or anything. So a bit of a learning curve, but she got into her groove, didn't she, in race 1? So finished P10. And race 2, she really started to get into her groove, didn't she? And she started to chase down a lad from Nottingham, actually. And he made a mistake, as did she, unfortunately. But she caught him right up and really kind of put him under a lot of pressure, which was great to see. And just see her have a mojo back, because she unfortunately had not her, but the car blew up. Didn't it, at the race
previous
before.
round, yeah.
So she just had to go through a bit for the last couple of meetings after it being so positive and so good. So it's all a learning curve, and I said this to her, with performance, it's 80% in your head, and of course when anything goes wrong, it's very hard to bounce back and be optimistic. So she was obviously very aware of the engine being brand new and all sorts of things. But no, it ended up being really positive, didn't it? At the end, the smile was back, which was good to see. So yeah, away from that, I mean, gosh, we've been doing mainly stuff at home. I mean, I was at Porsche, wasn't I, with a client.
Oh yeah, Friday.
I was in a GT3 RS all day, getting thrown around. Thanks, Darren. No, he's a very good driver. But yeah, we were very busy on Friday doing that as well. So yeah, it's been one of those weeks, hasn't it, where it's been a lot going on at home and then away as well. So we wanted to talk. I thought we were going to talk about something else, but I can see on here we're going to talk a bit more about the Lamborghini Countach, which is being reborn.
Yeah, so there's a trend, isn't it, with car manufacturers to kind of do a retro-y car.
Yeah.
So the Mustangs and Camaros, all that kind of Beetle, Mini, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But obviously, I think the car that started the poster on the wall kind of generation was the Countach.
Yeah.
That was the first kind of poster car. Everybody loved. I mean, there were terrible things. I remember Jeremy Clarkson saying that
he couldn't get in one, could he?
Nobody drove somewhere in one.
Oh, okay, so he did get in it.
He must have got it. And he said, it's not the worst car I've driven, because obviously I've driven a Nissan Micra. That's what he said at the time, the old original Micra.
So I think they were fairly got in that as well, to be fair.
Quite, yeah. So I think they were
tiny.
fairly terrible things, but they looked $1 million.
Oh, yeah. But I think cars back then weren't quite what they are today. We're used to sports cars actually being quite easy to drive in some respects, quite compliant. The build quality obviously being a much higher standard than it ever used to be.
There's a lot of Audi influence with Lamborghini, isn't there?
Well, there is, and I think it's helped them out, because they needed a big cash injection, didn't they, really? And they got that with Audi, and I think that's helped their reliability and build quality, that kind of thing. So I think it's been a game changer for them, honestly.
Yeah, but my point with the Countach was I thought it's quite a dangerous thing to do, to kind of try and bring a new Countach out, do you see what I mean? Because it was the car that everybody had on their wall. Yeah. It's almost a timeless car, but I think they've done a pretty good job, though.
But you say that, but like if you think of 911s and all sorts of things, I think it's a smart move, because you want to, especially with things changing so much, I think, these manufacturers have an advantage having so much heritage and history, and you need to use that. If you compare it to something like Tesla, which doesn't have any of that, it's great to be resourceful, go back to the past, sort of dig it up a little bit, and create.
But it does look like a Countach. I think they've done a good job.
Absolutely.
I mean, you have to be very wealthy and well connected to get one, because they're only building about 100 of them, aren't they?
Yeah, I don't know how much. I know it's going to be rare though. So what's the power is what, 803 brake horsepower?
Yeah, over 800 horsepower. So it's the same running gear as the Shan.
Yeah.
If somebody said it was like Welsh for Sharon or something.
So yeah, 6.5 litre V12, isn't it? So. But that's naturally aspirated, isn't it, as well, which is nice, but with an electric motor.
Yes.
So the electric motor puts out 32
so it should sound like
brake.
a Countach.
So really. Yeah, well that's the thing, and the thing is, it's over 220 mile an hour top speed. That's pretty, and what's over 60 miles per hour at 2.8 seconds. So yeah, it's
four-wheel drive.
No doubt it's going to be quick. That's for sure. But I love that they've managed to keep the look of the Countach, which for me is.
It's an absolutely iconic car, isn't it?
And we know Porsche do it a lot. And I mean, Ferrari, there's talks of them doing an F40, reborn F40 and stuff. And I think because, like I said, there's a lot of manufacturers coming in like Tesla. Well, these guys need to use their heritage, what they've been successful for, what they're known for, what people love. And you say like the posters on the wall. Well, actually, people can have a soft spot for stuff like that. And the problem is, a lot of people that go and drive the original realise it's not quite what it was cracked up to be. Because what you remember something as and what it might have been, we see it all the time with Porsche, don't we? If you drive like an 80s 911, you think,
they're quite hard work.
God, you know, and don't get me wrong, they were awesome, but of course we forget how much the car industry's evolved. So you get used to these modern comforts in the size and how easy they are to drive in some respects, and I think it's a bit of a shock to people when you drive a much older car. So it kind of makes sense, bring the old and the new together. So I'd be really keen to drive one. So
yeah, it's Lamborghini.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Hint, Lamborghini. But also, I did want to say quickly about the Cayenne GT, which for Porsche, which has been quicker than the Bugatti Veyron around the Nürburgring, which is quite something, isn't it?
This is a Cayenne Coupe Turbo GT.
Yes. So
which
what
is
it means,
pointless thing. There's about 3 miles to the gallon.
Yeah, it probably isn't going to be a car you honestly want to buy, and I'm sure Porsche aren't going to appreciate me saying that. But in the fact that if you're going to get a Cayenne, I think Cayennes are brilliant. I'm not an SUV person, and I'll be quite open and honest about that with anybody. It's just not my thing at all. I don't think it's aimed at people like me. It's aimed at people that need a car that can do everything, I suppose, and it can. But the problem with that car is, yes, it kind of can do everything in some respects, but you're taking away a lot of the practicality, aren't you, for the performance and the speed. But no, it's still, I think it's very impressive they managed to achieve that, though. So if you think, it didn't seem that long ago when Top Gear were going on and on and on about this Bugatti Veyron, and now we've got an SUV that's beating it round the ring. I mean, I think that's super impressive.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
To be honest with you, but it just made me laugh looking at it. You think, gosh, what are we doing? Why do we need one of those?
Yeah. Well, that was my thought.
But I do think it's very clever, and it did.
Because I don't understand the SUV trying to look like a coupe thing. I don't get that at all.
But hey, it's each their own, Mr. Miserable over there.
Yeah, well, sorry if you've got one. I just don't quite understand it.
But, all this said, we know Cayenne, to a point, saved Porsche, as did the Boxster before that. The SUV is used to be the biggest seller by a massive margin, but I think the Taycan may be taking over recently.
Probably.
But that's potentially for different reasons as well, because at the moment you get benefits, don't you? For getting an electric car if you own a business, that kind of thing. So it's a little bit different. in that respect. But anyway,
yeah.
So have a look. I saw it on Drive Tribe. I like to go on that. So that's the link to Top Gear, not Top Gear, sorry, Grand Tour these days. And it did make me smile that a car like that could do that. But yeah, I don't know if it would really be that useful.
No, pleasant on the road.
Yeah. So if we move on to driving for a minute then.
Yeah.
So
a couple of things have been asked really. So in a road context and in a racing context is about overtaking.
Mm-hmm.
So I get asked whenever I do anything on the road, people ask me about overtaking and how they should best go about it. And it's come up a lot with Sarah on track, hasn't it? So we thought we'd very briefly just talk about a couple of pointers for overtaking in those different scenarios.
Well,
really.
if I start with the track bit.
Yeah.
So of course this is where most people I've coached have some form of experience, to be honest. Well, that's a lie, but when it comes to racing anyway, maybe not. I have had people go from track to racing, but they watch a lot of motorsport. So I've never really had to go over sort of fundamental basics of overtaking, but it was really good for me to remind me that you can't just assume somebody just knows how to do racecraft and overtaking. It's something you do have to teach people. So I went through it a lot with Sarah this weekend. And one thing she's getting used to is, of course, travelling so close at high speed with other cars and having to put faith in other people. So she was following somebody and she caught them up, which was mega. But then she started to sort of pull out of his slipstream as such and sit sort of more central because she was worried she was going to hit him. But of course that started to compromise her entries and exits and things because she was tightening up the corner each time. So we had to sort of go through, didn't we, that she has to very much keep behind and have faith in the car in front and have faith in herself that she'll react quick enough if she needs to get out of the way if he brakes early or anything like that. But you do have to put some faith with people around you, don't you, and who you're racing against, to keep with them and don't compromise yourself, push them into a mistake, or if you can, get down the inside or potentially outside, but ideally inside is better, isn't it, than trying to go around the outside.
Yeah.
That's always harder. And getting fully alongside. So I was trying to explain to you, don't have to outbrake somebody necessarily, you just need to basically get fully alongside somebody so they can't turn in. And then you've got a good battle to try and make it your corner. So we've gone through that a lot. And I think it's something that we'll do further, with not just on the sim, but also watching a lot of stuff on YouTube, other races. You can learn so much just through watching other people, can't you? With this kind of thing. But yeah, it was quite interesting because a lot of people that I teach have watched a lot of motorsport as well. So it was quite nice to go back to sort of, right from the beginning of overtaking and how you line up a move and all that kind of thing. But I don't know if you want to fill in from there.
Well, so on the road, obviously it's a slightly different thing. So we always talk about keeping the space and all that kind of stuff. But when you're going to overtake somebody, once you've assessed, I think this might be a good place to pass, you need to go into what they call a contact position, so getting a bit nearer, basically. But the key thing I was trying to get people across then is don't accelerate and then pull out, because that's when people tend to, if they're going to lose control when they're doing an overtake, it's going to be at that point. The way to do it is, once you've made your contact, is pull out first, because then you can have a good look and it gives you a chance to have a look what's in front of the car you're passing before you commit yourself to the overtake. So do it quite deliberately. So close up, move out, and then accelerate past once all is clear.
Yeah.
Because the dangers you get, let's say, people accelerate and swerve out from behind, or they try and get a run on it, or things like that. But obviously making sure you've got the right gear, you've checked there's not a motorbike coming past you, all that kind of stuff. But I always try and get people to come out first and have another look before they accelerate.
Absolutely. I think that's the thing, is you don't have to get, most people sit too close, get boxed in and then try look. So it's all the wrong way round. And the thing is, you've got to be looking first of all while you're further back, where you can see a lot more, and then you can position out. And the good thing is you can position out. That doesn't mean you have to go, does it?
No.
So what's great is you can position out and you are adamant there's nothing coming, but have a good old look to make sure further ahead, like Richard says, vehicles in front, that kind of thing as well, but also where the road's going. Have you got plenty of space and time to achieve the manoeuvre? If you have, brilliant, and then you can go for it, rather than getting boxed up right behind, trying to inch out quickly and then commit yourself, not really knowing if it's safe to do so. And it sounds like we're teaching people to suck eggs, but we're not. That's the thing, is ultimately with overtaking, most people, you could sit with somebody who's been driving for 35 years, whatever, and it's something they're not confident with.
Nobody's ever told them how to do it.
No, not really. And of course, at some point, it happens to us all where we do have to overtake, don't we? And it might not be because you necessarily want to. It could be a tractor, whatever it might be, and it's tricky. Or these days, cyclists are another big feature, aren't they? For sure. So, so it's just giving yourself a bit more space and time, isn't it? Really, to do these things rather than getting boxed up, especially with things like tractors where you definitely can't see. You don't want to be in that position. Back off so you can see, especially if it's a straight line, because obviously it's very difficult to see. And do it that way ultimately. But obviously any questions, certainly with I didn't want to go too much into the track stuff with overtaking, because there's so many different scenarios and ways of talking about overtaking that it's much better one-to-one with people or group discussion, let's say, than it is on here. So if anybody has any questions on that, then please do get in touch, ask us. It'd be great to hear from you. And we'll happily go through that, whether you're doing sim racing, actual racing, or you're, thinking about starting track days, anything like that. Just let us know and we'll happily help you.
So, talking of overtaking.
Yeah, motorsport.
On to motorsport then.
Our favourite subject.
Our favourite subject. So there's not been, it's been a bit quiet really in a lot of ways, because F1 are on their break and all that kind of stuff.
There's a lot coming up.
There's a lot going on, but we have had 2 IndyCar races.
We have, yeah. So forgive us now if you don't watch IndyCar, but please do. It's really, really good. And there's a lot of, former F1 drivers going over. And I mean, most people would know Romain Grosjean. He's gone over, hasn't he? Ericsson. There's been several over the time, but also potentially people going the other way from IndyCar to Formula One in the future as well. So it seems to be IndyCar's much bigger again. It went through some difficult years, didn't it? And it was divided, wasn't it?
The Civil War, basically, in IndyCar. Yeah.
So that kind of diluted it, unfortunately, but it's now much, much stronger again. And you're getting manufacturers back into it, aren't you? And a lot more high quality drivers from all around the world, not just America or and it's been brilliant to watch. So they had their first ever race, didn't they, at Nashville? In
Nashville, yeah. So what they did,
which was a street circuit, wasn't it?
And evidently there's a big bridge. There's several big bridges in Nashville, but it was the Korean War Memorial Bridge. So basically they went flying over that, did a few laps streets, back over the bridge again, did a few more streets. So that's basically what they did. But it was insane, wasn't it? Because it was so narrow, apart from the bridge where it was 180 miles an hour with big wide braking zones. They then go down an alleyway.
Yeah.
It was a typical American street track.
Oh, it was brilliant.
It was just nuts, wasn't it?
I loved it. Apart from, there's probably some teething issues because there were 8 safety cars.
Eight safety cars
and 2 red flags.
But the bloke who won it
wasn't exactly easy, was it?
No. The bloke who won it had a massive shunt at the start and ended up climbing over Sebastian Bourdais, wasn't it?
It was Bourdais,
and doing a wheelie in the freight and then landing with all his front end all smashed in and everything else. And he won the race eventually.
And to be fair, this is something that probably needs to be looked at, doesn't it? Because the safety cars can really affect, far more than Formula One, affect whether you win the race or not. Because one thing we were talking about, and I'm sort of jumping a bit here, but is they don't have blue flags. So blue flags is a basically warns other drivers you've got cars that are overtaking, they're not racing for position, so they're lapping you or something like that. Or they're faster, but normally obviously it would be not for position when you get a blue flag. IndyCar, they don't have that rule, so if you're coming up to lap cars, you can be basically
they can fight you basically.
They won't let you go through, so it can cause massive problems because they want to stay on the lead lap in case there's a safety car, because then they can get their lap back, can't they? It's all very hard to get your head around when you first watch it, but that's where you really, I feel kind of bad for some of the drivers. So Nashville, what's his name who was leading, who crashed?
Colton Herta.
Yeah, Herta. Brilliant young up-and-coming American, brilliant driver. Was so dominant at Nashville, yet didn't win the race.
And which is about, that's the 8th time this year or something that's happened.
And I just kind of felt for him really. He did make a mistake in the end, but out of frustration, and I kind of saw it coming. But really it's because he had so many safety cars to deal with and eventually had to do another pit stop, and it all just affected his position along with some others, which allowed Ericsson an opportunity. Don't get me wrong, Ericsson had a cracking drive considering what Richard said at the start. He had a massive accident at the start. It must have knocked his tracking out and God knows what else. So to go and win the race is still incredibly impressive, isn't it? For him to go and do that. But yeah, I just felt for Herta because he was just so dominant, drove so well, and then really got gifted another direction, really, didn't it? Without him really putting a foot wrong, and then he put a foot wrong.
Yes.
So it was.
Which he wouldn't have done. I think he was in the lead. He wouldn't have been pushing as much.
So there is a discussion whether they'll end up going to blue flags and things like that. So that helps. But also with the safety car, I never get why you can get your lap back and things, which you can't seem to get in Formula One.
No.
I don't really get how does that work?
No, but it's an IndyCar rule that you know, if you stay, well, at the moment, if you stay on the lead lap, obviously if the safety car comes out, you then go to the back of the pack.
Yeah.
So you've got effectively your lap back.
Yeah.
Where what Will Power's suggesting is that you go through the traffic, but then you get your lap back anyway.
Yeah.
You know, so that's what he's suggesting.
It's confusing as hell, but anyway, well done to Exton. It was amazing to watch. If you've not seen it, go on YouTube and watch it because it is quite entertaining. It's quite funny.
It was pretty nuts.
I have my brother staying at the moment, and he loves his motorsport. As he's got older, he's got a lot more into it anyway, and obviously not like me, but he likes it, and I'm trying to get him into IndyCar at the moment. So his first ever IndyCar race he watched happened to be Nashville, which was absolutely crazy. And I think he thought, my God, is every race going to be like this? Unfortunately not, because then there was another race, wasn't there, which has just happened this weekend. Yeah,
back on the road course Indy again, which was a good race, but a bit more of a traditional race. There was only one safety car in it, I think, wasn't there?
Yeah.
And Will Power ended up winning in the end, which is his first win of the year, which he's had a really unlucky year. So at Nashville, he fired about 3 of his teammates off, didn't he?
He got told off, I think.
He was in trouble. But the previous round, he was leading, and it was red flag, and his car wouldn't restart for the red flag, and he's had a lot of stuff like that go on, I think, hasn't he?
Yeah, no, he's
struggled
been very
to
unlucky.
get in the Indy 500. He qualified last for the Indy 500, didn't he?
I
really upset
don't know
about
what's going on, because obviously he's hugely successful in
Penske
IndyCar.
was the biggest team in the world.
So it's all a bit odd, but it's very, very competitive. Now, of course, any formula is, but as we know with Formula One, there are advantages if you're in the right team at the right time. There is still a little bit of that in IndyCar, but the gaps are nowhere near as big. You know, you don't get the same advantage. So, for example, Indy road course, which we just watched at the weekend, the top 7 were covered by 1/10.
1/10. And the top 5, it was like 2 or 3 hundredths of a second or something covered the top 5.
Which is, you know, if you try and start and stop your, stopwatch in that time, you'd struggle to do so.
You would.
So it's amazing that it's that close, because obviously we root a lot for Jack Harvey, and he was 7th, wasn't he?
Yeah.
And he was only a 10th off. And you think, gosh, he'd have thought, right, I must be in with a chance here with 1/10, and sadly that put him 7th. But it's lovely to see how close it is in the overtaking, and proper overtaking where they have to line things up, and they do have a boost, don't they? But they only have a certain amount of seconds.
200 seconds they have, don't they?
So they have to really be careful when they use that. And I actually think that works better than DRS, personally, because you will run out. So you have to think about it wisely. So you do still see a lot of traditional overtakes, lining it up, and then really just going for it and lunging down the inside. It's just great to see. So if you guys and girls haven't watched it, please do, because I think it's really getting into a new era now. So I really should work for them, shouldn't I? I'm like a big pitch for them. But something else that's coming up, which is really exciting, is Le Mans, isn't it?
Le Mans 24 hours
so
again. So obviously normally in June.
Yeah.
So
so
because
the
end of August. And
of everything that happened with COVID, it's all been moved, hasn't it?
Yes.
Obviously it was different last year as well, so therefore same this year. So we're going to do a special with Le Mans, so we're going to do our own special episode, and we're also going to have a very exciting episode with, well, I won't say the names for now, but some legends of Le Mans, let's say. So we're going to have a special episode where we're interviewing some very special names who have had success at Le Mans. So that's also coming, but we want to do that after the Le Mans, so we can do our own episode first, talk about it, and then also then discuss with people that know more than us about Le Mans. So we also thought we'd do a bit of fun and do a quiz. So we've been, anybody who's on social media in general will understand that we've been doing general quiz questions, and we're getting people asking for more. So we thought we'd do our own quiz as well, and we'll still keep doing it online, so you can still get involved. And on that note, we have an interactive question, which I think we should ask first, don't you?
Yeah, so last week we asked who was Britain's first world champion.
Yep.
1958 was Mike Hawthorne.
Yep, so well done to anybody who got that. And what's this week's one?
So following on the same World Championship theme, Britain has had 2 World Rally Champions. Who are they?
Okay, so let us know, send it in, and we'll obviously get in touch with you as well. So we're going to do a quiz. So somebody kindly sent us a quiz. Now I think for Richard this is going to be too easy. I should have probably done the quiz for you, shouldn't I? Because anybody that knows Richard knows he just has this mind where he absorbs useless facts.
Yeah.
Especially about motorsport. Sorry. So this has been, so we haven't got any answers, by the way. So what we will do is try and, should we write them down? Actually, that might be worth, and then we can check it. Yeah, so I think if you write them down, you can read them out. We'll answer them together.
Have you got? Hang on a minute.
And we'll do it that way. And then, so of course you guys and girls can check as well. And we will release this quiz also. Whether we do the whole thing at once or just gradually like we've been doing, I don't know yet, but you will get to see these questions too.
Yes.
So go on then.
Right, so question number 1 then. Jenson Button won the 2009 Formula 1 World Championship driving for which team?
So Braun. That's probably the only one I'm going to know, by the way.
Braun.
I don't have to answer them all, do I? You're going to help me, yeah?
You're going to know this one then. Question number 2. In 2016, who became F1 World Champion and then announced his retirement from the sport 5 days later?
Nico Rosberg.
He did. Hang on a minute. I need to write this down.
You might need to answer some as well.
Which 3 prestigious motor races make up the Triple Crown of motorsport?
So the Indy 500, Le Mans 24 Hour, and Monaco.
Yeah.
Grand Prix. Sorry, he is just writing. So if you're listening to the,
I thought it was
listening to it rather than.
I always thought the Triple Crown was the World Championship, Indy and Le Mans 24 Hours. But there you go.
Okay. No, I think it's the races, isn't it? So it's just the Indy 500.
Yes, it does say prestigious motor races. It says.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think it's that.
And there's only one person who's ever won it.
And I think I know who that is. I could be wrong though. I think I know who it is. Is that one of the questions?
No.
Oh, okay. Is it Graham Hill?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, a massive.
So question 4 is the one about who's the first world champion. So we know that because we've just said that.
Who's the first world champion of what though?
British world champion.
Oh, Graham Hill.
No.
No.
Who was the first ever British Formula 1 world champion?
Oh, Mike Hawthorne.
Sorry,
yeah. Yeah, sorry. I'm getting completely lost with what you're telling me here.
So,
what?
Question number 5. Sebastian Vettel won the World Championship in 2010, 11, 12 and 13. Who was he driving for?
Red Bull.
He was.
Yeah. Okay.
Which Argentinian racing driver dominated the first decade of Formula 1 racing?
Oh, you know. Okay, go on then.
Juan Manuel Fangio.
Yeah, there you go.
How many?
I wasn't going to say Fangio. That's
Who were you going to say?
I don't know. I was still thinking.
How many Formula 1 World Championships did Michael Schumacher win?
7.
He did.
Why am I answering all these?
I don't know. Which F1 racing team formed in 2007 is based in Silverstone? I think that's changed.
Yeah, was that not?
There is only one based in Silverstone.
Was that not Force India?
Yeah, I think it's Force India.
But it's now Racing Point.
It was Racing Point, and now it's Alpha. Not Alpha, Aston.
Yes. Yeah, so I think it was Force India back then, but then it changed, to Racing Point, and then, of course, now Aston Martin.
Which Formula 1 motor race on the Baku City circuit was first held in 2017?
Azerbaijan Grand Prix.
I don't know why I'm writing this down, by the way.
I don't know. I just thought it would just so it looks like, so we can check the answers afterwards.
Yeah.
But it sounds like you know them all anyway.
Yeah, sadly.
Oh,
the first Grand Prix to take place behind the Iron Curtain was in which country?
Oh, I have no idea. Behind the Iron Curtain?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Hungary.
What does that mean then, behind the Iron Curtain?
When it was part of the USSR.
Oh, okay. Fair enough. See, I told you I wouldn't get them. So.
Which British motor racing circuit was the world's first purpose-built motor racing circuit?
Sorry, say that again. Which British motor
racing circuit was the world's first purpose-built motor racing circuit?
Silverstone.
No.
Oh, down south. You know, the banked one.
Yes. Brooklyn.
Brooklyn.
Yeah.
That's the one. Get there in a minute. Of course it's Brooklyn's.
Now there's one I'm not sure about the answer to this.
Okay. Well, that's why we're writing them down so we can check afterwards. And everybody join in, please. No, we don't know all the answers, so please join in.
So which British Formula 1 team founded in Milton Keynes was active from 1978 to 2002?
Okay, which British Formula 1 team founded in Milton Keynes was active 19... Not Jordan. No, that wasn't around 1978, was it? Arrows.
I think it's Arrows.
Really? 2002 though. They weren't
Became
going that
something
long,
else then.
I thought Arrows didn't last very long at all because you had Damon race for them and then they weren't around much after that,
They were, because Tom Walkinshaw owned them for a bit and then they became something else.
Okay, well, please join in
yes.
and let us know if you think it's a different answer. We'll check the answers anyway, won't we? But, yeah, go on.
Which Australian racing driver was F1 world champion in 1959, 1960 and 1966? I've already written it down.
Brabham?
Yeah.
You need to answer these two. I'm answering them all, apart from the ones I don't know.
Which team were constructors champions in 2017? Yeah, there's been one in 2017, can't
yeah, well, you know, Mercedes.
Yeah.
Then those ones.
The Marina Bay Street Circuit is the street circuit for which country's Grand Prix?
That's not Monaco, is it? No, Marina. I don't know.
Abu Dhabi.
Ah.
Abu Dhabi.
Okay.
What was different about Lella Lombardi, who finished 6th in the 1975 Spanish Grand Prix?
I have no idea.
It's female.
Oh, shit. Oh, sorry. I should have known that one.
I think she was the only woman to score a point in Formula 1.
God, how did I not know that? I thought I know that now. That's what I have no idea. Oh, God's sake.
Which team was owned by a family who run a worldwide chain of clothing stores of the same name?
Well, it started off all right. It's all gone a bit wrong. Benetton.
Benetton. Which driver who won 3 F1 World Championships for McLaren died in an accident while leading the 1994 San Marino Grand Prix?
Ayrton Senna.
So you know that one.
Yay! Finally got one.
We're getting to the end. Who from 1987 until 2001 held the record for most Grand Prix victories until this record was surpassed by Michael Schumacher?
Surpassed by Michael Schumacher. Until 2001. Do you know?
I think it's Alan Prost.
I was thinking, but until 2000... Oh, that's when it was surpassed.
Beaten,
sorry.
yeah.
Okay, so it doesn't mean they had to be racing until 2000.
No.
Oh, okay. Go on then, put that I don't know. So again, anybody, if you think otherwise, please say.
And the final one, how many points are awarded to the race winner of each Grand Prix?
What? 25.
25.
I really should note that.
There we go.
So
let us answers on a postcard.
Yes. So please get involved on that. Like I said, social media wise, we are doing different questions to that, by the way. But we're already doing interactive questions and loads of people have been getting involved, which is great fun. So we're going to carry on doing that, different questions, but we might release this as well. Or some of these randomly. So yeah, but if any of you guys and girls disagree with any of our answers, please get in touch. We'll check them anyway. But yeah, get in touch and let us know your thoughts too. So we just thought we'd have a bit of fun because it's been going so well online that we thought we'd give it a go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, right. Well, we'll say goodbye for now. We're going to do a special next week for Le Mans.
Yeah.
So we will do a little bit of talk about road stuff, but it's going to be predominantly Le Mans focused. And then, like I said, we've got a very exciting special coming up with some very exciting guests. So yeah, we look forward to it and hopefully you'll join us. Thank you.
See you later. Bye.